Hello and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon what time of the day you're watching my video. I'm John, I'm Orphan Car Garage. I'm located in Abington, that's in the state of Massachusetts, and we're about 30 minutes or so south of Boston. We pride ourselves here at OCG as being the purveyor of affordable classic cars. Everything from cars from the 1930s up to through the 1990s of late. One thing that we've always kind of been fond of is the car here in front of us, and that's the Chevrolet Corvair. Sold a lot of Corvairs through here. We've become quite popular for Chevrolet Corvairs. I think I get a call a week from people looking for Corvairs, asking me to call them when I get them. I'm one person. I can't possibly call everybody that calls me for a specific car. So if you've called me recently, you've been looking for a Corvair, here you go. As I probably have said to you on the phone or an email, just watch me, subscribe to me on YouTube, Facebook, check my website periodically. When I get one in, it will be listed and you can be the first to know. I just can't possibly call everyone every time I get a particular car in, and I apologize for that. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. This is a Corvair from the year 1964. This is the last car from an estate collection out of Maine that we helped the family disperse of. This is the last and probably the best. This was the gentleman's favorite. He owned this car for many, many, many years, decades, in fact, and this was well known to be his favorite car. He was a Corvair mechanic by trade. If you guys remember the little green coupe, Mrs. Beeman, that I profiled, that car got wildly popular here on YouTube and Facebook. Lots of people expressed interest in purchasing that car, and that car has been sold and on its way to Los Angeles, California. This is another car from that same collection. This gentleman was widely known for repairing Corvairs. He had his own general repair garage in northern Massachusetts in the 1970s. And when the GM dealers, Chevy dealers stopped working on Corvairs, they would send their customers to him to have them serviced. So he became known as the Corvair guy up on the North Shore in Massachusetts. He soon, shortly after that, he moved to Maine, opened a repair garage in Maine, southern Maine, and continued that tradition of working on Corvairs right up very close until his passing just last year. He was well into his 80s at the time. This was one of his own personal cars, and like I said, well known in the circles, the Corvair circles, to be his favorite. And we can absolutely see why. And yes, it's a 4-speed. For all you manual transmission fans out there, I'm always getting calls from people looking for manual transmission Corvairs, and here we go. This color is a stunning color, very 1960s, not a very exciting name. Chevrolet called it Silver Blue Poly, and I guess I can see why. It is more blue than it is silver, but there is sort of a silver hue to it. It's a pretty color, great for 1964. I love the blues on pretty much any car, and Corvairs especially. As I mentioned, and you saw, the car has a 4-speed transmission. Very popular with these cars nowadays. Most of these cars seem to have power glide automatics, and there's nothing wrong with that either, but when we come across a 4-speed, it's rather unusual. Car also has the upgraded 110 horsepower engine, which I'll show you in a few minutes. There's a great story behind that motor. You're going to like it. A power convertible top. The switch down there under the left side of the instrument cluster shows us this car came factory with a power convertible top. 2-speed windshield wipers, day-night mirror. I actually believe that mirror is more from 67, 8, or 9 in Corvairs. The 64 mirror would have been a little smaller than that. But that's nice to have, gives you a little bit more viewing. And it is a day-night mirror. Padded dash, and there is a crack there on the dash. Very typical for these Corvairs to crack in that location. In case you don't know, that's the ashtray there in front and the radio speaker. Behind that, push-button AM radio, seat belts. Premium seat belts, right-hand side mirror, which according to the data plate, the Fisher body tag in the engine compartment that I took a picture of, and you can see on my website, did come factory equipped. There's a W code on that plate, and according to my research, the W code indicated a right side mirror. Very, very uncommon for the factory to install those. It was an option, but most of the time the dealers installed them or owners installed them well after the fact, during restorations and so forth. But it's a nice feature to have on any car. Beautiful car as far as paint. The top on this car is original. It's a black top, And as I mentioned, it's a power top, which was an option on Corvairs, and it's the original convertible top. Ron was always very vocal about this car having its original top. It's in great shape. There's one small little tiny hole about the size of a pencil eraser in this area, and then again even smaller up in this area, and I took pictures of those flaws of the top, and you can find those on my website. Nothing that I would concern myself with. I would leave it alone. It's an original top, and it is in black. The car was repainted at some point. We don't know exactly when, probably in the 1990s. Extremely well done. Extremely well done. Nice trim. We have a feeling Ron installed all NOS trim on this car when it was painted. Those headlight bezels are just too nice to be original. That black paint usually faded pretty quickly. That front grille bar is perfect. Corvair emblem here on the top of the hood. 64 only, by the way, spelled out Corvair on the front edge of the hood. Very common for these cars to corrode around these letters in 1964. If you look at a 64 Corvair, if you're out looking at Corvairs, you don't buy this one, check these out closely. Very common for these to corrode around where these studs go into the hood on the Corvair. Very, very common soft spot. Also up in here is also a very common soft spot for these early model Corvairs to rust. Nothing on this car. You could eat off the undercarriage of this car as well. We have pictures of that on our website. Chevy sold a lot of Monza. This is a Monza convertible. The convertible was also available in 1964 as a turbocharged model, and that was called the Spider. This is a Monza, not the Spider. And I think Chevy built about 30,000 of these in 1964. You have to remember that in the mid-60s, convertible production was pretty much at its peak around 1965. Chevy built more of these in convertible form than they did sedan form. The Monza sedan sold in less numbers than the convertible did. Very unusual, well, not so unusual for 1964, but became rather unusual by the late 1960s. I think the only car in 1964 that Corvair built that was more popular than this was the Monza Coupe. This interior has been redone. These seat covers are exact reproductions from Clark's Corvair parts up here in Shelburne Falls, Mass. They are your leading parts distributor for Corvair. They're very nice to deal with. They sell just about everything you'd ever need for these cars, and lucky for us, they happen to be right here in Massachusetts. I believe the side panels, armrests and such are original. Really nice jams. Again, the interior of this car, the undercarriage of this car is in fantastic condition. You won't believe it when you see the photos. I'll show you the engine now, I guess, while we're here, and I'll fire it up. This is the optional 110 horsepower engine. This car would have come standard with a 95 horsepower engine. The person that ordered this new from Feely Chevrolet in Needham, Mass. It's always cool to have the original dealer tag, dealer brag tag as I call it, on the back of the car. That's a nice feature. I always love to see that. This car was sold new here in Massachusetts, but obviously not subjected to too much winter, because these cars didn't survive too long up here with the road salt. So this car was saved from all that by its original and previous subsequent owners. So you'll notice how clean this engine bay is. Ron was meticulous about his mechanics, the mechanical abilities of his car. He was always on top of things. This car received a complete engine rebuild not that long ago. We think within the last 6 to 8 years. When Ron retired from servicing other people's Corvairs, he kind of focused more on his own. And this was a car that he loved. He removed the engine in this car and completely rebuilt it with original NOS GM parts. Pistons, rings, you name it. Everything in this car has supposedly been replaced in the engine. A complete rebuild using all GM parts that he had collected over the years. And you can see he did a lot of other things too. Carburetors, that distributor cap looks brand new. This car runs extremely well. But I will tell you that when he got older and got a little sickly, the car did sit for about 2 years in his garage until we acquired it here. at OCG. So it took a little coaxing to get back running. I'm going to be honest with you, no car likes to sit ever. I say that to myself all the time as my own cars sit. Corvairs in particular do not like to sit. You really need to keep these cars up and running regularly. They do not like to sit idle for very, very long. They can be very cantankerous little cars. A lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but they can be cantankerous, especially when they sit. We seem to have overcome that hurdle on this car. It's very turnkey. It runs beautifully, shifts through the gears, good brakes, good clutch, you name it. I'm really not too concerned about this one, but I just want people to know that this car did sit recently for about 2 years prior to us resurrecting it for the family upon Ron's passing. Start the car up for you now. The trunk, beautiful trunk, very, very clean. There's pictures of that on my website as well, orphancargarage.com. Carpet in this car could probably use to be replaced. It looks rather old. It's got some stains. It's a little stinky, to be honest with you. I would probably, first thing I would do when I bought this car is to put a fresh carpet in it. It would really make these beautiful seats, upholstered seats, pop. He may not have changed the carpet when he did the seat covers. 25,443,000 miles, I believe. Our main registration shows that as 125. Starts right up and runs beautifully. The seatbelts, by the way, these are a premium seatbelt. The code for this is not on the Fisher body tag in the engine. It would have been if these were factory installed. So Ron must have found an NOS set of premium seatbelts and added them to this car. Very easy to do. The factory put the holes in the trunk, in the floor for the dealers or the owners to add their own seatbelts because they were still options in 1964. Nice running 110. That is a brand new battery. No smoke, no strange noises. Car also has cool bumper guards. You can see that. These are dealer, factory accessory, dealer accessory. Excellent, excellent smooth running engine. As I said, the brakes are great on this car. The clutch is beautiful, shifts through all the gears. I've taken it down the road. Just a real pretty car from the last year of the first generation Corvair. And of course, in 1964, Chevrolet added that transverse leaf spring in the rear suspension to try to quell some of the concerns that were starting to be raised. What's this? Idles down nice and smooth. I said these cars can be rather cantankerous sometimes. This one is just behaving beautifully here at OCG. While we're talking about that, I'm really careful about who I sell Corvairs to. I want people to understand this. When you buy an old car, whether it's 20 years old or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years old, anything could happen at any time. You want to be prepared for that. These cars break. All old cars break. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. It goes along with the ownership and the fun of everything. You just need to be prepared for that. And Corvairs in particular are very, very unique vehicles. They're extremely unique, and your average mechanic isn't going to want to work on this car because they're afraid of it. They're very, very simple mechanically, and like I said, parts availability are not an issue. But before you buy a Corvair, whether it's from me or anybody, I need you to do your research in your area, find your people. If you're not mechanically inclined or you don't want to learn, there's a lot of tools out there to learn how to fix these cars, manuals and such. If you're not that person, you need to find that person in your area. The last thing I want to do is sell you a Corvair and 8 months down the road have you call me and say that something happened and you don't know what you're going to do because you can't find anybody to fix it. There's some really great Corvair chapters out there. There's a club called the Corvair Society of America. They've got chapters in every state. You need to reach out to those people. You need to find your crowd. You need to find your Corvair guy that's going to be able to help you, or girl. There's some girls out there that fix these too. You need to find your people, in other words. I'm doing that for my sake and for your sake, because I'll feel terrible if you buy this car and a year down the road, it breaks down and you have nobody to fix it. Find your people. Very, very important. Now, let's get right to the nitty-gritty. The price on this 1964 silver blue poly Corvair Monza convertible, $14,900. $14,900 for this beautiful example of a first generation Corvair convertible. These cars are becoming very, very popular, and because of that, prices are starting to climb. We're trying to keep them down here. We're trying to be very reasonable and affordable here at OCG, but it's getting tough because these cars are going up in value. So anyone you buy today is probably going to increase tomorrow, like money in the bank. $14,900 for this 1964 Corvair, only at OCG. Give me a call, 508-954-8090. Look at this car on my website. Plenty of pictures, about 80 pictures total on my website, orphancargarage.com. Like and subscribe to me here on YouTube. Keep saying Facebook, the second video in a row I've done that. I do have a couple of really cool Corvairs coming up. Not as affordable as this one. This one's not going to last. You really don't want to think about this one too long. Give me a call, 508-954-8090. My name is John. This is our beautiful 1964 Corvair Monza convertible for $14,900. Thank you.